All right, let's dive into something a little different today. You ready for this?
Always.
All right, good. So K-pop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hit songs, global phenomenon. We've all heard of it. But what about, like, using those songs to learn English?
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at today. Specifically, Rosé, from Blackpink, her song APT with
Right.
Bruno Mars.
Oh, I know this one. Catchy tune.
Super catchy. And we're going deep using, you guessed it, the Wikipedia article on the song to see, how much we can actually learn about the language, the culture, just from one song.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So I got to say, right off the bat, one thing that really stood out to me from this article was, the title, APT. Seems simple enough,
Yeah,
right?
seems pretty straightforward.
But get this, it's actually based on a Korean drinking game, Apartment.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. See, already learning something new.
Right. I was like, how did this, become a global hit? So what do you think? How did this happen?
Well, I think APT is a really good example of, what we call global fusion, taking something very Korean, this drinking game, and mixing it with, English lyrics, that classic Western pop song structure. You've even got this catchy Korean chant thrown in there.
Right.
And all of that combined, that's probably a big part of why it appeals to so many different people, like all around the world.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like they took this, hyper-specific cultural thing and made it something everyone can connect with. But okay, the chorus, right? It's got that Korean phrase, all. Most people listen, they don't know what that means, right?
No, probably not.
But it's so catchy.
It is.
How does that work?
I think it's the sound itself, the repetition, the way those and Y sounds are pronounced. They make this driving beat, almost like a percussive rhythm, and it just sticks in your head.
And oi.
Okay. Yeah, and if you think about it, those sounds, they're plosives. You make them by stopping and then releasing the airflow. So it creates this inherent energy.
Huh. Like a build-up and release.
Exactly. Energy and excitement.
So it's almost like a sonic meme? Something that just gets you hooked without even knowing what it means.
Exactly. And it's kind of similar to what we saw with Psy in Gangnam Style. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That catchy Korean, it just grabbed people's attention. And then they wanted to know, what does it mean? It's music transcending language,
That's fascinating. All right, so let's get down to the real reason we're here. Can someone actually learn English from a song like APT?
Good question.
I was looking at the lyrics, and there's some, slang, freak, poetic language, in your arms, time stops, even some grammar conditional sentences like, I'd trade the stars to keep you here in my APT.
So what do you think? Is this a good way to learn English?
I think APT definitely gives you some ways to improve your English, but maybe think of it like a supplement to your regular learning.
Okay, I'm with you.
So you hear slang, you look it up, you see how it's used, maybe even try using it yourself.
Practice, right? Right. And then with the more poetic stuff like time stops, try putting those into your writing.
I see. What about that conditional sentence, I'd trade the stars? How can someone learn from that?
Oh, that's a good one for practicing grammar. You can see how it's built, that if I could, I would structure. And then you can try changing the tense or making your own sentences about different situations.
So APT could actually be a useful tool for language learning.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're really engaging with it, listen for certain words, copy how Rosé and Bruno Mars pronounce things, even try singing along to get the rhythm right.
So it's more than just, passively listening, right?
Yeah.
You got to be active about it.
Yeah.
Okay, but hold on a second. The Wikipedia article, it mentions some other interesting stuff too, about the impact of this song. Apparently, it even boosted soju sales. Soju is a Korean alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
And because of that sumac cocktail, the soju and beer mix, in the music video, people started buying more soju. Crazy. I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a great example of how pop culture, it can have a real impact, even on things like what people are buying. Millions saw that video, so some of them, they probably got curious and tried sumac.
It's kind of mind-blowing, right? The ripple effects of one song.
It is, yeah.
And it wasn't just drinks either. The article also mentioned that YG Plus, the company that handles Rosé's solo work, their stock went up because of APT.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a hit song, especially in K-pop. It's big business.
Yeah, crazy. And then, okay, get this. There's this older song from 1982 called Apartment, the one that inspired Rosé. And after APT came out, streaming for that older song shot up 190%.
Really?
Yeah, it's like APT is a time machine for older Korean music.
That's a great way to put it. It's connecting people to something from the past, bridging generations and styles.
All right, so we've got language learning, alcohol sales, stock prices, and even time-traveling music. This is getting really interesting. I wonder what else we'll uncover. Well, the article also talks about some parodies of APT that went viral. I'm curious to see how those fit into the picture.
Yeah, me too. But let's maybe save that for later.
Good idea. There's a lot to unpack there.
So we were talking about like the ripple effects of APT, right?
Mhm.
You know, language learning, soju sales, all that. But the Wikipedia article also mentions these parodies of APT that like blew up online. There's one where Jiyoon and Kwak Baem, they're both entertainers, they actually recreated the album cover. What's the deal with that?
Oh, yeah, that's a great example of how big APT became in South Korea. Jiyoon and Kwak Baem, they're known for their comedy, always on top of what's trending. So them recreating the album cover, it's like a nod to APT being like a cultural icon.
So it's not just a random funny picture.
No, it means something. It's like when people make memes or parodies of movies or shows,
Right.
it's a way of like playing with something that everyone's talking about, putting your own spin on it.
I get it. Okay, so then there's this other parody, a remix, called Martian Lil Doji. And it uses images of Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong, the North Korean leaders. It even has North Korean rhetoric in it. That's a pretty wild mix.
It is, but it shows how you can take these cultural elements, even from places that are totally different, even opposed to each other, and in the digital age, you can remix them, put them in a whole new context.
It's like anything goes online, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, but, thinking about all this, it makes me wonder, is APT really the best way to learn English? Like, are there downsides to using pop music for that?
That's a good point. You have to remember, pop lyrics, they're not always grammatically correct, and they don't always reflect how people talk every day.
So I shouldn't show away my textbooks just yet.
Probably not. Think of pop songs as like a fun addition to your learning, not the main course. They can help you with the vocab, pronunciation, getting a feel for the flow of the language, but you still need that solid base in grammar and how sentences work.
Makes sense. It's all about finding a balance. But speaking of vocab, earlier you were saying how APT has some slang terms. Can you give us some examples? And why is it important to know about slang when you're learning English?
Sure, like the word freak, right, in the lyrics. It's common in casual settings, especially if you're younger. But in other situations, it can be offensive, not something you want to say.
So it's about like knowing when to use the right words depending on the situation.
Exactly. That's why it's important to learn about the whole context of a language, not just the dictionary definition. Like, what are the cultural meanings behind words? How do they change depending on who you're talking to?
Okay, that's helpful. Really good advice for anyone learning English.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on a bit. Did APT have a big impact on the music industry itself? Like on K-pop or Rosé's career?
Oh, for sure. APT was #1 on the Billboard Global 200 chart. That's huge for any artist. For Rosé, it really put her on the map as a global star. She wasn't just K-pop anymore. She had fans everywhere.
So it wasn't just like another catchy song. It really changed things for her.
Yeah, it did. It showed she could do different styles, work with international artists like Bruno Mars, and reach a massive audience. Career-defining, you could say.
The Wikipedia article, it says APT, was huge in South Korea too. It even got what they call a perfect all-kill. That sounds intense.
It is. It means a song is #1 on all the major Korean music charts at the same time. Really hard to do. It shows just how popular APT was there.
So it was a global and local sensation. And to think, it all started with a drinking game.
Right. It's amazing how music can grab people's attention and then have this huge impact culturally and commercially. You just never know.
Okay, so we really dug into the story of APT. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to the English learning thing one more time.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we've spent this whole deep dive looking at APT from every angle, right? Like how it mixes Korean and English, its impact, the parodies, everything. But let's go back to where we started. Can you really learn English from just listening to pop music?
It's the big question, isn't it? I think APT shows us that pop music, it can be a good tool, but you got to be smart about it.
What do you mean by that? Be smart.
Well, think of APT like a jumping off point. You hear a word you don't know, like kissy face, boom, look it up, learn what it means, maybe try using it yourself. Same with grammar, like that conditional sentence, I'd trade the stars, break it down, see how it's built.
So it's about like doing something with the language, not just letting it wash over you.
Exactly. And the great thing about pop music is it's designed to be catchy. You hear things over and over again, helps you remember.
True. You're not usually singing grammar rules in the shower, are you?
Not usually, no. And don't forget about pronunciation. Listening to Rosé and Bruno Mars, you can pick up on how English sounds, the rhythm, the intonation. Try singing along. It'll help you practice.
So like APT is good as a supplement alongside your textbooks, classes, all that.
Exactly, a fun supplement. And it's not just about the language itself, right? APT gives you a peek into different cultures, too. That Korean drinking game, the soju, the way the lyrics mix English and Korean.
Like a little cultural exchange program, but in a pop song.
That's a good way to put it. So to anyone out there learning English or just interested in different cultures, don't dismiss pop music. It can be a really cool way to broaden your horizons.
Well said. Seems like we've reached the end of our APT deep dive. Language, culture, drinks, even North Korean remixes, we covered it all. What a ride.
It's been fun, hasn't it? You never know where one song will take you.
It just shows there's always more to learn, more to dig into, no matter how well you think you know something. So keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep those ears open for those unexpected connections.
And if you like this deep dive on APT, check out the Dr. Podcast YouTube channel for more explorations of language, culture, you name it. We've got a ton of episodes waiting for you.
Don't forget to hit that like button and leave us a comment below. Let us know what you thought about apps and what other topics you'd like us to deep dive into.
Until next time, happy listening.